Welcome to Mindset Transformations with Coach Myrna, a show that showcases content and how to change your brain to change your life. A show empowering women who have been abused, betrayed, abandoned, or rejected to change how they feel about themselves and become co-creative sources attracting abundant love and happiness into their lives. I'm Coach Myrna Young. I am a certified professional coach, author of 3 books, motivational speaker, and of course, your host. I know from personal experience that change is hard. In my book, Out of the Snares, A Story of Hope and Encouragement, I share my journey of poverty and child abuse, betrayal and disappointment, and how I turned it all around to live an abundant life now in the United States of America. This show is going to give you, our audience, the tools on how to do the same in your life. And today, we have the most wonderful guest joining us today. Her name is Nicole Blais. And I'm sorry, Nicole, if I'm butchering your name, but is that how we say it?
Blais. If you just think of blah, 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 so Nicole Blais.
Okay.
That's
Nicole
fine.
Blais. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, Nicole is the founder of Goshenite Seniors Services, a transition and relocation service for seniors. She has developed and created programs in her community for over a decade. She is a self-motivated individual with a joie de vivre. And I think that means a joy for life, correct?
Correct.
All right, that's awesome.
Correct. Yes.
2 for 2. Awesome. Nicole is a breast cancer survivor for the past 8 years. She now teaches nursing students at Laurentian University on the importance of communication between healthcare providers and patients after having suffered a second injury to breast cancer, which left her with a disability. She is currently involved in an ethical study at Laurentian University on survivors, teaching students, which will be published later this year. Well, congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
Nicole brings a lifelong passion for interest in design and organization that started at the tender age of 7. Having been raised in an entrepreneurial family, she owned and operated her first business as a creative stylist at age 19. Organized and detail-oriented, Nicole enjoys working with families of seniors to ensure peace of mind during life transition changes, interior design, home staging, as well as estate sales. As she continues to work and partner with our aging population, the importance of helping others organize and advocate during times of transition is a gentle reminder of how time is of the essence to simplify one's life. Nicole loves to laugh. She's determined to make a difference for her family and community. She has followed and honored the Lord throughout her life. When trials and valleys were a part of her life, she turned to the Lord for grace, peace, and love. The glory of the Lord shone on her as she honored her Father during some of the most difficult times in her life. She was given miracles for her ashes during those times and continues today to honor the Lord in all that she does. She says it like this: I shall honor the Lord first and my family, and then my business will prosper. Well, Nicole, welcome to Mindset Transformations. You're going to be telling our audience today how to play it forward while helping others, blessing us. As the end of your biography talks about your miracles for ashes, it gave me goosebumps because, yes, when you help others, you get your miracles. So welcome. Thank you for being on our show today.
Oh, well, I'm honored to be on your show, Myrna, and to share some of my life history, as you said, and Valleys. And thank you so much for that wonderful introduction that you gave me. Again, it is my honor to be here with you and to share some of my journey with your guest today. So thank you very much.
Well, welcome. Well, thank you. Yes, audience, you're going to be very inspired by Nicole's story. So let's get started. Everybody would like to know about you. What's your story, and how did you get from where, to this point in your life?
So I'm from Canada, and I grew up in a northern community and it's called Sudbury, Ontario. It's actually about 5 hours north from Toronto, so that'll give you kind of a perspective, and people will go, "Oh, cold." It is cold during the winter, but we do get spring and summer and fall, and I love all the seasons. However, as I get older myself, I prefer to be, somewhere warm in the winter.
Okay.
So I was born and raised in this community, and as you said in my bio, Myrna, I come from an entrepreneurial family. My mother has, for as long as I can remember, been an entrepreneur. One of my very first sales jobs was at the tender age of 7. We used to make dolls in the basement at home, my sister and I, with my mother. And I had this, I remember, little green hard suitcase, and my mom would put the dolls in the suitcase, and then my sister and I would have, we would go door to door selling dolls, and I always remember my mom saying to me that, I was very competitive, where, I would come back and say, "Oh, Mom, they don't like the hair. They want blonde hair instead of brown hair, and they want the eyes blue instead of green." And my sister would just look at me like, "Where are you coming up with this stuff?" But anyhow, so that was actually, my first experience in sales. And so I always had that entrepreneurial spirit that my mom has and still carries today. She's still in business. She's 78 years old.
Wow.
So, I had 3 siblings, a sister who's older than me, and 2 younger brothers growing up as well. And we attended church regularly. And then as we grow older, we all know what happens, some go and some don't. Well, I continued to go on my own, and servicing the Lord in my eyes growing up.
Well, that's beautiful. They say, train a child up, and when he gets older, he will not depart from it. So I'm glad that you're one of the ones that did not depart from it. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And,
yeah.
And how, what is, when you grew up, and tell us a little bit about your life as an adult.
So I got married. Growing up, I went to, of course, I went to high school and stuff. But for me, I wasn't a real academic, so I didn't very much like school, and probably because there were some issues in the family home that made it even more difficult for us growing up. So I quit school or high school after grade 9, and always. Yeah, in the back of my head, I can remember drawing pictures, in primary school that I wanted to be a hairstylist at that time, and that always stayed with me. And so I quit school after grade 9, and my mother paid for me to attend hairdressing school for a year, and so I did that. And I'm trying to think, around the age of 16 or 17 when I did that. And when I think now, when I look back, I think, oh my goodness, I don't even know how I did that, but I did.
Well, you never remember it way back then. Only the important things stick out in your mind. How old did you get married, and do you have children?
Yeah, so I got married at the age of 19, and just prior to getting married to my husband, my first husband, I purchased a business in the small town community that we were living, and it was a hairstyling shop. And Thank you. And so that was the very first business that I had, but and then immediately got pregnant, and so I have two children today, Alan, who's 33, and Matthew, who's 32.
Okay, you got them right after the next two. Wow. Okay.
and you know, and to add to that, so to continue on my godly life, I distinctly remember saying to my father prior to having any children, because my parents didn't have any grandchildren at the time, and I said to my dad, it was Christmas time, and I said to him, Dad, and he kept saying, we want some grandchildren, and I said, well, Dad, by next year at this time, I'm going to have, a baby, and that's my plan and stuff. And so I was deeply honored, and people are going to think, well, maybe it's not a big deal to them, but to me it was, and it's still today, that my first-born son was born on the Lord's birthday, which was December 25th. And I remember,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I was so touched by that, and I really felt blessed that I was, God gave me that honor that my son was born on the same day that he was.
He gives us a little, encouragement as we go along. All right.
Yeah.
So, you said first husband. So did that marriage end in divorce?
That marriage did end in divorce, and that was Myrna, I have to say, it was a very difficult time in my life. The first couple of years I was so busy with starting the business and having my children, but I was in an abusive relationship with my first husband. He was abusive physically and mentally, and would have these rages of angers throughout the relationship, and so for me it was very difficult. I became very anxious, suffered a depression and a nervous breakdown, and at the end of the marriage, when the marriage ended, I had found out that he had an affair with my best friend for over 7 years, and we had been married for 10.
Oh, so my goodness.
It was devastating and very difficult.
So that's probably why he was such a bad husband. He never really gave your marriage a chance, huh?
No, I don't feel like he did and stuff. And I look today and I can honestly say, well, maybe, because of his childhood, he had some difficulties, hence the fact he behaved the way he did, but still, didn't warrant for me to be treated that way. And so throughout that marriage and stuff, my spirituality obviously became stronger, and the Lord became the person that I talked to, that I leaned on, that I looked for encouragement. And I was fortunate enough at the time to have a neighbor who was she was a reconciliation officer for marriage in our little community in our church. And, I always say today, thank God for Phyllis, because she was able as well to kind of lift me up when there was times when I just thought, like, this is it, this is the end, I can't continue, I can't even, bring myself to pulling myself together, yet I have two children and, a business, and when I go out into the public, I'm one person, and then when I come home, I'm something like totally destroyed.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Well, a marriage that does not work is and I've had, personal experience myself with that. It's one of the worst things that that a woman or a man can go through when you have tension, when you have children. You stay in it for whatever reason and suffer through it because you have got a value that you feel that you have to put up with.
Exactly. Like they
stay, right? And that's why a lot of people stay. But God became your strength, and that is very good for our listeners that are listening to know that God was your strength. Yep.
Exactly.
And you said you had someone else to talk to as well. looking back on that, for our listeners that might be going through the same thing, can you tell them, what specifically you think you did to keep your sanity with children, a business, an abusive husband, and
oh my goodness.
right.
So feeling like, and people will understand if there's listeners out there how you feel like you're just nobody, because, my former husband would say things that were very, abusive mentally, and so after hearing those things, anyone who's abused will realize or know that they start believing what, the other person is saying to them, and you don't add up to anything, and you don't have an education, and you're stupid, and all of those things, and that just destroys your self-esteem, right? And so for me, I heard those things for many, many, many years, and so of course I didn't have that inner strength immediately to pull myself out of that. And so one experience while we were still married, after having suffered severe panic attacks because I wasn't telling my family what was going on in my family life or my home to them. It all looked like, I had my life together. I had a business, and it was prosperous. We started off with, myself and one staff person, and by this time I had 9 employees working for me, and we had purchased a home, and we had a cottage, and I was traveling. It's so I was traveling
to the White House with the picket fence, but inside.
Yeah, and all the diamonds I wanted, and then the fur coats and the cars, and it was crazy, Myrna. It's almost like a movie. And so, but if anybody would have looked into my window of my heart, they would have saw that it was bleeding, it was aching, it was dying. It was like. And I can refer to your book, Out of the Snares, and when I read your book, and I think I said to you, I had to read it again. It just so related to my story and got my attention, and I just could not get enough of it. And
thank you.
Oh, it was so.
A lot of women relate to either all the story or certain parts of it. That I get that a lot, that, my goodness, that book is for me. It touched me. I had to put it down. I cried. I laughed. And
my goodness, all of that. And even now I'm getting chills because I'm thinking of it, and I think, it was just so inspiring. Well done, and kudos to you.
Thank you. It was authentic, and that's what it's about. You were on the air talking to our listeners, telling them how you came through this extremely painful episode in your life. And we're going to end with all the good things that are happening right now, because there's a process. And we know that joy comes in the morning. After the darkest of the night comes the dawn. And you're sharing your story, and that's exactly what I did. I cut myself open, and I told my story so that anyone that's reading my book would be able to glean from some of the principles that I used to move from that lack and that abuse and poverty to abundance, and that's a good word. So let's take a short station break, and then we're going to come back, and then you're gonna I'd like to hear how you changed your mindset after your husband told you and destroyed your self-esteem, how you changed that into, who you are now. So let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You are listening to Mindset Transformations with Coach Myrna. Our very special guest today is Nicole Blais, and she was telling us in her first segment, her story of her family, her story of her first marriage, and how that marriage was very abusive mentally and physically. And now we're going to get to the good stuff. We're going to get to how Nicole changed her mindset to start her process of healing. So how do you tell us how you did it?
Thank you. So during that marriage and at the end of the marriage, it was even then it struck me as odd, and today when I think back and we're discussing this, I think, wow, that it was so not inspiring, but so it was a message sent from the Lord. And I remember specifically my husband saying to me at one point, you should really go back to church and do something. So I was like, well, fine then. I'm going to do that.
Was he in church?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have surprised me if you said yes.
It was just a huge surprise to me that, he would even suggest that. But he knew, he knew my beliefs and that I believe strongly, and I had no problem communicating with friends or family about God and stuff. So it was just struck me odd. So I did do that. I started going back to church and with the children, by myself, whatever. And at one point, and this was, I think, one of the life-changing episodes in my life and one of the miracles that I often talk about on my journey. So I had attended a healing session that was being done at our church, and so I went, and oddly enough, I had gone to this healing session with my best friend who was actually having the affair with my husband even at this time. Wow. Yeah, so it was just, so we went to Mass and stuff, and then they asked, people who wanted to receive healing to come to the front of the church, and I did that. And I specifically went there because at that time, it's when I was suffering the panic attacks, and I was seeing a psychiatrist/psychologist to help me, get through this point in my life. And I was on medication for anxiety and depression and all that. I went there to be healed of that ailment in my life. Oh, so now I'm going to get a little emotional. So while I was there, I went to the front by myself, and someone prayed over me, laid their hands over me, and I thought, okay, well, this is it. I'm nothing happened, right? So I went back to my pew, and the Mass finished, and my friend left, and I left, and I went home. But what happened on my way driving home was so overwhelming that I was just, so the Holy Spirit entered my body, and it was so awesome, such a feeling. I can't even explain it, but what it felt like to me was that I had a renewed heart. So I had, like, if you can imagine in your mind, it was like a water fountain running throughout my body, from like my feet running like a fountain through my heart, and just keep running. Okay, and it was
living waters.
Living water. It was, I knew at that moment that I had been healed. I knew it. And I was overjoyed. I went home. I was just like on cloud nine. I told my neighbor. I didn't tell my husband. But the next day I drove to, because we had lived in a small community, I drove to Sudbury, the city of Sudbury then, where my psychiatrist was, sat in the waiting room, waited 3 hours to see him. And I had only been on the medication for a week. And I was his last patient at the end of the day, and I remember him saying to me, look, I have like 20 minutes and I have to be somewhere, so I understand it's an emergency. You want to see me. What is it? Do you need anything? And I just said to him, I put the medication on his desk, and I said, I'm just going to tell you briefly that I don't need these anymore. And he was like, no, you have to take them. And I said, nope, I am not taking that. I'm healed. The Lord has healed me. And, I mean, if you want me to come here and keep seeing you, I will do that, but I am not taking any medication. And I never took another pill again.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting, but I was going to ask you next, because healing is all about faith. Like Jesus keeps saying in the Bible all the time, your faith has made you whole. And I've studied healing. In order for you to be healed, when you walked up to get prayed for, you had to believe. Now, what you just said is that you believed that you were healed and you gave back the medication. So your faith, did you have faith before, or did your faith come after you felt the water running through your body, or the electricity running through your body?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I believe I had faith before, and that was just a confirmation that, you know, it was
you would
there.
Have to, else you would not have been healed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
Right. Well, you know, I am. I've been touched many times. In church, being prayed for. Hand laid on. But we had a pastor from Africa at one point in time, and I remember he was built up. We all heard that he was a master. That he would be at an outdoor event, and 10,000 people would fall. So he was built up, and as he was walking around the church, I remember saying to myself, wow, I wonder if I can just touch the hem of his garment.
Yes.
And that was exactly my mind. And that pastor, I almost said man, that prophet, that pastor, that preacher, whatever you want to call him, he walked by me as I was standing in the pew. He pulled me in the aisle, touched my hand ever so slightly. And I felt that same thing that you're talking about ran through my body, knocked me over. I was slain. I was on the ground, bawling my eyes out.
Praise God.
And, a lot of people, some pastors, when they touch you on the forehead, they knock you over, and you fall. It's not whatever. But the man just touched me like a feather on the side of my arm. And and I go back to that arm all the time because I'm thinking, you know what? That's where my touch was. And it was faith. Yep. And, it's, I don't know if that's my anointing. I wasn't sick or anything like that. But, that was definitely my anointing, and I remember that. So it's a good story because, our listening audience that have never been touched does not believe in faith healing, does not believe that, man has the power. They do. God gives power of healing to the people that he's anointed. So that is, and I'm assuming that you're talking about miracles and ashes. Is that where your Miracles for Ashes started, or?
That's where it started, yes. And then, every now and then throughout my life, I have been fortunate enough, or not even fortunate, let's not use that word. I much prefer the word blessed. As I prophesize for God as his daughter, as his servant here on earth, that, I am blessed to have the life that I have today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was an incredibly inspiring story. I love it. So, I know from your bio that you're remarried. So tell us about that.
So I'm remarried to what I really feel is my soulmate, and his name is Mo, and he has 3 children, and I always like to share the story of how I came to meet Mo. So after the divorce and stuff, and I for some reason I was attracted to a certain type of man, and had to kind of really focus on attracting something totally different than what I was, because for some reason I kept attracting. Yeah, I kept attracking.
You have patterns. Yes.
Yeah, who are abusers and stuff, and I really worked on that with some counseling, and was able to attract my soulmate. So I had been to church that evening, and a friend had called me and said, let's go out tonight. And I was like, no, I don't really feel like it. I'm not up to it. And she kept at me. And so finally I said to her, in Sudbury we have a special place on a mountain here. It's called the Grotto, where there's some spiritual statues there, and you can go there to pray, to be quiet, to have your time alone with the Lord, or whatever that looks like to each individual. And so I said to her, I just, I will go with you if you come to the grotto with me before we go. And she said yes. And so we did that. And I remember kneeling in front of the Virgin Mary and really crying and saying, please, I just want a friend. I wanted to be able to have that man figure in my life as a friend, but not sexually and stuff. I wanted to be able to build a relationship with a man that I could trust.
Mm-hmm. It's important.
Yes. Very important, right? And for some reason I felt like I didn't have that in my lifetime or whatever. So we went out that evening, and so that's actually the night that I met Mo, who's my husband today now. We're going to celebrate 19 years in July.
Wow. Nice. Very nice.
It's been a great ride with him. He's fabulous. And I knew people are going to say, how did you know, or what did you feel, and it's so important. This was key for me the next day because he wasn't from our community. He was actually from a community that was 3.5 hours from where I live, and he was just here actually visiting a friend. And he called the next day because he was on
God puts us together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. Just like works the way it's supposed to be, and the next day he called me up to go for a coffee with him because he was heading to Toronto to see a concert. And so I said, sure, I would meet him for coffee, but we had talked on the phone. And one thing he said to me, and I don't know how we got on talking about spirituality and beliefs and stuff, but he started talking about the Virgin Mary. And I got to tell you, I got shivers today. I had shivers that day, and I knew. I remember getting off the phone, and I said to my friend, because she had just spent the night with me, and I said, oh, God, I said, Claire, I'm in trouble. And she said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to marry this man. And she said, now don't get carried away. She says, I said, no, I'm telling you right now, this is it. The rest is history.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot of men say that they know their wife immediately when they met her. You're the first woman that I've heard say that. But I want to tell our listeners something right now that, it's, your story, the story that you just said, it speaks to. Women should not be passive-aggressive. And passive-aggressive means, like, for instance, if you are a spiritual person and you say you're asking God for a mate, or maybe you just feel that you don't have to do anything, somebody's going to break down and they're going to knock on your door, or things like that. That's being passive-aggressive. You need to be out there. You need to be doing something in order to meet people. Now, what you don't need to do is push it. What you don't need to do is, bang on someone's door, become, needy person, be out there and just, throwing yourself at somebody. You don't need to do that. You just need to get out there and mingle, and then guess what? God will send to you the person that's for you. Now, you've read my book, and our audience hasn't. But that's exactly what happened when I met my husband. The very first time that I saw him, right?
Oh, yes, I remember.
The very first time I saw him, he caught my attention. Now, I didn't go like you, thinking that, we're going to be married or whatever. But he felt that way. He said as soon as he looked at me, he got this warm feeling inside that he's never felt before. So we ended up talking. We met on the train. He was the officer on the train. I was riding the train. But the very first time he came and sat with me, and we rode for about 20 minutes. When I got off that train, I knew that, not necessarily my next husband, but I knew that we were going to have a relationship and that we were, because my body told me this. You got chills. Sure. My heart somersaulted, and I have never had my heart somersault before. My heart somersaulted for an entire week, and that is how your body tells you. And women, You need to start paying attention to your body. You need to start paying attention to your emotions, because that is how the infinite intelligence communicates with you. So that is awesome. And, I will be celebrating. I'm not as good as, half a year. I'm going to be celebrating 10 years of marriage, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
in a couple
fabulous.
of weeks.
The anniversary.
And like you, you only went through one. I went through several before I got to, my Prince Charming. But, yeah, but, you just have to be patient. You just have to get out there, mingle, and just let the universe do the rest.
Yeah.
So,
and
time,
and I'm a firm believer in that. And I a couple of things with Mo, and I which is really odd and bizarre, especially with my past experiences and stuff. I got that immediate feeling that I could trust him. Like, there was never a doubt in my mind that this man would ever betray me, never, even today. Married 19 years, together 24. We courted for almost 4 years before we married. We had a long-distance relationship for 2.5 years before he even was, like, within an hour of being, close to where... So
you got your friend, what you asked for. You got your friend.
Yes, I did. And it was
awesome.
It was so inspiring, like, emotionally and physically, like you say, Myrna, because the Lord allowed me to take care of the children that he gave me without interruption of a man being, taking away from my children, and allowed me the space that I needed, because at this point I had returned to school in my life. And so I was never interrupted. My schedule, my daily schedule, I had the time with the Lord, number one, as I do today every morning, and I had the time with my children, and I had the time with Mo when we first met.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So part of your biography, we talked about you having cancer, having a second attack, and being left with a disability. Tell our audience briefly how that experience has, helped you to get to the point where now you play it forward.
Right. So in 2008, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Just I feel as good as I feel today, or I felt as good as I feel today, I should say, when I was told that I had breast cancer by my family physician. I attended annual checkups. And I think one important thing to remember, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was 44 years old, so it's young. They usually start mammograms. I don't know about in the USA, but in Canada, they unless you have a family history, they start at 50. There was a little bit of history in my family, but
we start at 40 here. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, is that right? So in Canada, they start at 50. So at the age of 42, I had requested a mammogram from my family physician because at the age of 33. I had a premonition I lived in just before I married Mo. It was in June, and I was in the bathroom of the small house that I lived in, and something spoke loud and clear to me that one day I would have breast cancer. And
oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, and then I hadn't shared that with anybody for years, and because I thought, oh my God, I'm crazy, right? But I'm not that crazy after all. So, but in that same voice came, you're going to have breast cancer, but you will be okay. So that's one thing. But then, this is like almost 12 years later. So I asked for a mammogram at 42. Everything came out fine. And then went for my annual checkup at 44. And this is another miracle in my life, and it's so important because my family physician was just going through my file, and I'm going to just use the words nonchalantly, just going through the papers in my file, and stopped at one point, and he just looked at me and said, well, Nicole, we should do another mammogram. And I was like startled by this. I had just had my physical. He had done, a pap test and checked my breast and everything, and he didn't seem concerned or anything. And I said, well, why do we need to do that? And he said, well, I just like to do them every 2 years. I really feel that the Lord was watching over me that day, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
So it's very powerful.
You're a very special person.
Yeah,
God has
so powerful, and I'm grateful.
He has had you to for a purpose, and you haven't fulfilled your purpose yet. So He's keeping you alive and around. That is awesome. It's almost the same thing that happened with my pastor. He went in
really?
He went in quite unexpectedly. Something happened, and he went in and found out he had prostate cancer. And it was just as unexpected as yours. I think he was in for one thing, and then they checked something, and I had prostate cancer. So God really, and I believe that so much, that we're guided, and you just have to be open to guidance from God. And it's all about being still, being quiet, believing, spending time listening for God's instructions. I mean, if you're busy, and your mind is always busy, you're going to miss all these different things. So that is wonderful. Now, we're going to take another quick station break, and then you're going to tell us, our audience, what you're doing today and how you play it forward and help others. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. Now, if you've been listening from the beginning, you know that we are talking today with Nicole Blais. She is the founder of Goshenite Seniors Services, and she's been telling us her incredible story of pain and victory, of cancer and healing, and how the Lord has been with her throughout her journey. And because of that, our topic today is playing it forward, why helping others blesses us. So you've heard the background story. So now we're going to talk to Nicole about what she's doing today, and how changing her mindset has helped her to succeed.
Thank you. So, two things that are ongoing in my life today that I did, I think, for a long time, for over 25 years, in order to have changed my mindset, like you say, Myrna, and to paying it forward, to moving forward in the direction that I feel, God the Father who breathed life into me, when I was born, that I have a real purpose here on earth for Him, to serve Him and honor Him and do for Him what He has done for me. And if I can excel that or exceed that, then I feel I will have, maybe done something that He wanted from me, of me. So, and it's very important, I think, throughout our conversation, I think that, I need to mention that I built that relationship, not just as we build relationships, whether it be friendships with friends or our spouses or our children, those relationships need to be maintained. And then the darkest moments of my life, I remember sitting, at my dining room table, whether I was alone or a single mom in that time, and writing letters to God as if He was sitting right across from me.
Okay.
In my house, just sharing exactly where I was at that point in my life, and needing someone to, lift me up, and the next breath I was joyous and fulfilled, and it was like, okay. So it's so important, and so I always start my day today every day with, I get up in the morning at about 6:15, and I make my tea, I brush my teeth, and I go and sit in my my war room, my chair with my Bible and my reading and my list of people that I pray for, and I do that every day for an hour to an hour and a half. Yes, I do miss some days. I try not to miss any because, as I said, building relationships is so important, and in order to maintain my relationship with my Father, my Lord, I have to keep doing that.
Oh, well, that is absolutely amazing, and I will share with you and our audience that a morning routine is very good. I have just gotten back to a routine myself in the morning because, sometimes I can be a little haphazard about it. But it's incredible that you should say that because, and that's what happens in life. I am a learner. I glean, my pastor talks about you glean, which is where you learn from everybody. And I was reading a book. I don't remember what the name of the book is, but I read a lot. I was reading a book a couple of weeks ago, and there was a statement that said that every successful person has a morning routine. Oh, right, yes. I was watching YouTube, actually, and this guy came on and talked about 10 or so people that have morning routines. He talked about Steve Jobs. He talked about Bill Gates, all the rich and famous people, and every one of them have a different routine that they did. And he said successful people has a morning routine. And then right after that, I was watching Steve Harvey on Instagram, of all things. I mean, I remember YouTube, Instagram. Yeah. I was watching Steve Harvey, and Steve Harvey said something that he has a morning routine too. And his morning routine, including in his morning routine, is a gratitude thing where he has a list of about 80 things that he's grateful for. So you know what? I decided that I was going to make my morning routine a morning routine, not today I feel like this and tomorrow I feel like this and tomorrow I go to the gym or whatever. So I always meditate. Meditating is what I do. So now, I meditate, and then I write because I'm a writer. And when I meditate, I hear God, or I hear my inspiration. And when I come out of that meditation, I write. And after I meditate, now I have my little gratitude thing that I do. I can only come up with like 30. I couldn't get to 80. I will tell you. So I sit there and I talk about all the things that I'm grateful for. And by the time I get to like 20 or so, I feel this warm glow all over my body. And I will tell you something, listeners, that is powerful, because I will tell you that if you sit there and say in the morning you're grateful for your husband, you're grateful for having a man in your life that loves you and someone to hold you and all the things that I'm grateful for, you can't say that to that man.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do that, right? You're absolutely right.
It's so hard to do that.
Great point.
So
it is.
It's so hard to do that.
You know what? Like I remember 30 years ago, one of the exercises I had to do. I don't know what it was, but where I was, but it was you had to say 10 positive things about yourself, and and I remember having such a great difficulty to do that. But if you ask me today, I can tell you 20 or 30, right? And I would much rather feel my
self-esteem.
That's right. I'm filling my spirit and my soul with those feelings rather than that negative that I heard at a younger time in my life when I wasn't good enough and I wasn't educated and stuff. And today I can tell you, you know what? That's all. Whatever. Because today I am educated and I am an entrepreneur and I am successful.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. We're having such a good talk today. Listeners,
yes,
I'm glad. I'm hoping that you're getting some nuggets, and our nuggets that we're leaving with you today. We're talking about hold on to God, hold on to your power. Don't let anyone take it away from you. You're wonderfully made and wonderfully created. and you have a purpose, and you have a destiny, and if you hold on to God and have faith in your dreams and your beliefs, it will happen. If you're right now waiting for a man to come into your life, be positive about it. Wait on God. Tell the universe what you want.
Yes.
Do not be passive aggressive. Don't stay in your house. You need to be out there. You need to be doing things. And guess what? That man will find you. So
absolutely.
So that's what we want to do. Now, playing it forward. Tell me about that. We've had conversations before, and you told me some very powerful, things that you do where you go and give out, food to the homeless, and when you paid for somebody's, that. Tell us about that.
So, one of the things that I'm a firm believer in, because there was a time in my life when I had to go to a food bank, and I say that, at one point I was very wealthy in my life, and I didn't need for nothing. But then, like the Lord says in the Bible, like a thief in the night, I will come and take it away from you, right? And that's not a negative thing. That to me is the realization that I needed to lean on the Lord more and not be so materialistic in my life. Okay, and that was a very good lesson for me during that time. So paying it forward today and even 10 years ago was quite important. But some of the things that Mo and I do today in order to pay it forward. So we started a cookie campaign at Christmas time, and nobody in our community knows about this. So the first year I baked, Mo and I baked together, and then this is wonderful. And now our grandchildren are involved, and it's so inspiring and motivational, that they're learning from us and stuff. So we baked shortbread cookies, and the first year we did, and people are going to go, 10 boxes, big deal. Yeah, you're right, 10 boxes, big deal. And each box had a dozen cookies. Right. Box had a dozen cookies in it, and then I typed up on the computer a Bible passage that went in every box, and then we go out Christmas Eve after our church service in our community, and we go to downtown to where the homeless shelters are, and we pass these out. We hand them out. Oh my God, Myrna and listeners, you have. It's like giving them $1 million. The response you get back is incredible. I remember, year one, where one man ran away from us because he had no idea what we were doing, and finally we actually parked the truck, got out of the truck, and walked towards him to say to him Merry Christmas, and oh my goodness,
wow,
and handed him the cookie. Beautiful. He just couldn't believe it. And so every year we increase that number.
You feel good. Yes.
Oh my God. So this past Christmas we did 30 boxes, and we did, each a dozen shortbread cookies, the passage, but then we also included a gift card from Tim Hortons in each box for $5. And the thing about that is
get some food
get some food and get a drink or whatever. But for us, I've been working on my business and stuff, so I don't have an income that's, ongoing and coming in and stuff. And I just said to Mo, we just got to do it. Somewhere down the road, it'll come back to us. I'm not worried about it. We're going to spend that $100 to get the gift card.
Seed in the ground. Yes.
That's right.
I'm almost remembering
planting
that song.
This seed. So we call that campaign now Community Cookies for the Homeless. We still haven't shared that with anyone, and we're going to continue to grow. We're hoping to do 50 boxes this year, this Christmas, so I'm quite excited about that. Even my own family doesn't know that we do this. Like my parents and siblings and stuff. Our grandchildren know. And they're so motivated by this, and even they called Christmas Eve and said, how did it go, Grandma, and what did they say, and what did they say when you hand it to them? And so it's so it's teaching them to the values of that, you know?
Yes.
And that's just one way of paying it forward. Today, as an entrepreneur, one thing, you know, quickly, I just want to say we're probably towards the end of the show here, but, you know, Myrna, when I met you, that initial contact and how you paid it forward and worked with me as a business coach with, you know, understanding my circumstances and look where I am today. And so I learned from that from you, and I am now mentoring 2 business women in our community, in my community, for free, paying it forward to them. And I got to tell you, there are eagles in my life, as Joel Osteen says. They are coming to me, and I am being rewarded in relationships, not necessarily monetary, but I have a vision for my business, and I am excited.
Yes, it is. You know, I do believe, you know, and all of a sudden I've got this song in my head. You know, I've got a seed in the ground, and you know, it's working towards my good. But you know, I absolutely believe in that. When you're passionate with something, when you give, I give all the time. Like right now, I'm giving to my audience. You know, I'm giving as a coach. I'm giving as an author. I'm giving as a blogger. And what it makes me feel good, I play it forward all the time. And that's a seed. It's in the ground. And it's going to grow, and it's going to grow into a harvest. So, listeners, whatever you've got to give that you should give, and it doesn't have to be, it happens what happens at church. Whether you've got money to tithe, if you don't have money to tithe, you tithe something that your services, you mentor somebody, you coach somebody, but you do something to play it forward. You have to build seed. You have to put it in the ground. I don't say you have to, but if you do, you will feel so much better. Okay, so you're right. We're coming to the end of our show. So tell us about Goshenite Services and what you do, and then tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you. I know you're in Sudbury, Ontario. I mean, but you know, give us your website, and maybe somebody listening might have, you know, might be in that area, and you can get some business from that. So go ahead and tell us about your services and how our audience can get a hold of you.
So Goshenite Seniors Services, Transition and Relocation. So we offer transition and relocation services for seniors in our community, but it goes as far, you know, I've had calls from as far south as Toronto and as far north as Wawa in our community. But we offer, so I go into the home. The first consultation is free to figure out what it is they're looking for. So in the transition, it can be anywhere from the complete transition to a new location, finding that location and helping them pack and organize and move to that new location and get them set up there, or aging in place, which means coordination of services in our community or in their home that will assist them in remaining in their home longer. One of the programs that we deliver on an educational component is the Plan Ahead program, which I developed as well and created. So that program is to educate our community agencies, healthcare, or even community partners or seniors groups on how the importance of planning ahead and what to do there. And if you haven't planned ahead, what should you do in a crisis situation, which is usually what happens. People usually wait, seniors usually wait till one of them either is in the hospital or passed away. And so that program teaches them what to do in those situations. I have a great website that people can either email me or contact me through our website, which is www.gosheniteservices.com. And you can email me through there. Pardon?
Can you spell that, please? Spell it out.
Yeah. So Goshenite is spelled Goshenite, and the word services, services.com. So if it's a personal, you know, you want to share something personal, or you just want to talk to me, or just want to know how business is going, anything like that, just send me an email, and I would be happy to respond to you. Or you can call me at area code 705-698-5333. 5318. And I'd be happy to return a call to you then.
Awesome. Well, Nicole, it has been absolutely a pleasure talking to you on our show today. You are an inspiration, which is why I wanted to have you on the show. You have been through the fire, and you have come out with a testimony. And that is why God puts us through the fire, so that we can testify that He is real, that He lives, and that, all you need to do is have faith, and He'll be right there for you. So I am thankful that we had this time together. And listeners, tune in next week for Mindset Transformations with Coach Myrna, and get some more nuggets on how you can live your best life now.
Thank you so much, Myrna, for having me as a guest, and I hope that I've offered some inspiration to the listeners.
Lots of inspiration.
The best way I can sum it up, and I thought about this for a while. In closing, my comment would be, if you ever watch the video of Taylor Swift coming out of the woods, that is speaks loud and clear to me on my life, and how I come out of the woods and where I am today, and I have only one person to thank for that, and that's the mighty Lord.
Yes, we give Him all the glory. Now, I got chills with that, so that means that our audience is probably having chills with that. So thank you, and good night.
Good night. Thanks very much, Myrna.
Okay, you're welcome.